Joining the program this morning is the manager and one of the country's top percussionists of the iconic group Iron Butterfly. We welcome in Michael Green. Michael Brian C., thank you so much for being with me on KMET Radio.
Oh, it's my pleasure. How are you today?
Very well, Michael. Michael, let's begin. Let's talk about your start in music playing. Your infatuation with music began at what age?
Well, probably about 15 years old. I wish I could say it was 100% the music then. It was a local band, and like most guys, we played music to get the girls, you know what I'm saying? And that developed into a love for it. So initially it was to get the girls, but after that we started to really just love the music.
Now, your goal as a kid, was your goal as a kid to be on stage, to play for a big band? What was your goal? What was your dream as a kid growing up?
Well, when we started really taking it seriously, I think everybody's goal was to, you know, get the hit record at the time. And, you know, things were much different in the music business then, and get with a band who could do that or make your band get to that. And we've kind of focused on that. So I think everybody was in the same boat there.
Now, Mike, if you remember, what were some of the earliest bands you idolized, artists you idolized?
Well, I had a very funny selection of different people because it was a very broad spectrum. Initially, you know, I always liked old blues artists. You know, the older the better, actually, and classic blues artists. I loved all the R&B stuff. I was a big Sam and Dave fan, and Wilson Pickett, people like that. The rock music-wise was initially a group out of Florida that I became involved with and that my relatives were involved with, Blues Image. They had the song out, Ride, Captain, Ride. And with Iron Butterfly when I was younger also. And, you know, just the groups that were popular, we tried to figure out what their success was so that we could get to that, I guess.
Absolutely. Now, do you remember the first major gig that you performed in and where and with whom?
Yeah, it was, for me, it was major. At the time, it was pre-major, what was before the Ride, Captain, Ride song came out, but it was with Blues Image in Tampa, Florida at the Curtis Hickson Stadium.
Wow. Now, let's talk a little bit about Iron Butterfly. Obviously, the group has a historic brand name, being one of the pioneer bands to perform in Woodstock. How did you get involved with the group?
Well, as I said, again, this goes back to Blues Image. Blues Image, when they left Florida and decided to come to California, were hired by Atlantic Records to be the opening act on the tours for Iron Butterfly. So I got to meet the people from there. Even when I wasn't playing with Blues Image, I was with them on the road doing other things. So I met the guys in the band there. And initially became friends with Doug Ingle, who was the group leader. And they did a show in Florida at Pirates World, at a venue that's no longer there, and he asked me to fly back. I flew back to L.A. with him, stayed at his house in Calabasas for a while, and we just became good friends from there. And we knew a lot of the same people because American Recording, Atlantic Recording was all done at American Recording in North Hollywood, and the studio there had some of the biggest bands of the time. They produced Three Dog Night, Iron Butterfly, Blues Image, you know, everybody you could think of. So it was a great experience for me. I got to meet a lot of people.
We're talking to Michael Green of Iron Butterfly. Michael, speaking about Doug Ingle, he was definitely a pioneer, wasn't he?
Without a doubt. Doug is one of the most intricate, I would say, and esoteric kind of guys you could run into. You know, his music was, of the time, so advanced, so far ahead. You know, lyric-wise and his playing, you know, he's got a church history from his dad being a church organist, and he brought that whole ethereal sound into the band, you know. Doug has a way of singing a little behind the music, which is perfect, very, very, just very new at the time and very effective. You know, yeah, Doug is a very talented guy.
Now, Mike, as history states, the Woodstock Festival, Iron Butterfly was stuck at the airport and requested a helicopter to get picked up and brought to Woodstock. Is that accurate?
Well, pretty much what happened was that the roads had been closed because of the mud and everything else, and they were scheduled to play. And they were called down to the Port Authority several times for a helicopter that never showed up. So either the promoter just decided against it or whatever, but that was the thing. There was supposed to be a helicopter that never showed. I think it's debatable whether the band finally said forget it, which they did, if that came first, or if the promoter just stopped doing what he was supposed to be doing, because the helicopter never arrived.
And I think the promoter was John Morris. Was that his name, if you recall?
No, I think I know his name because we were just dealing with him because we just did a different Woodstock reunion in North Carolina, but I can't for the life of me remember his name. As soon as we hang up, of course I will. But almost everybody knows the guy's name from Woodstock. I just can't think of what it is. That was the promoter we were dealing with, or they were dealing with. Michael. Yeah, Michael somebody, sorry. Actually. No, I was going to say Michael somebody. I just can't remember his name for the life of me.
Yeah, I think the last name was Morris. I read something in the books regarding that. But now let's get back to you. Reading your bio, one can say that your part is an instrumental key factor in the resurgence or the third reunion's legacy of the band. Is that fair to say?
Well, it's a little egotistical to say, but it is honest. Michael Lang is the name that I was thinking of, by the way, on the concert promoter.
Michael Lang.
But yes, it is because I went with Ron Bushy, the original drummer, and spoke with him, and he had retired. He had a medical issue that he beat, thank God, and he had retired, and Doug had retired, and they wanted to keep the name active, and they wanted to keep the legacy of the band going, and so did I. Always enjoyed the band and loved them as people and friends, very close friends for years. So what we did was form the band back again with a lot of the guys that had traveled and played with them for 10, 15 years after some of the original guys left. So the guys that are in the band now, some of them, they're 15, 20 years. With the Iron Butterfly. They had a lot of little bands that popped up stealing the name, thinking that nobody was going to sue them, and so there was some confusion. But yes, we brought it back to a pretty popular thing. I mean, we do very well. We tour a lot, and people love hearing the music, and it's the exact same music that you would hear if you were listening to the original albums.
Yeah, I mean, the band is it's got such a recognizable name. I mean, how would you define the band style of play during the decades of the 60s, 70s? Did it differ much?
Well, it people may argue. I don't think it differed. I think it evolved. It was a little more, not so much on the flowers and beads side anymore when it got into the 70s, because the mindset and the country was in a different mindset. But I think it held strong in its pioneering sound. I think it held strong in its lyrics. The musicians were great at the time, and I think the whole thing was so advanced for its time that, I think it carries through today. I mean, people hear this music today and they sing along with us. They know the words. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, many say it pioneered hard rock, heavy metal music that we hear today. Would you agree with that?
Well, yes, and we hear that a lot, and I definitely, I do think so, because I hear it in other music. I've heard other people who are musicians that play it say it, but, this was a sound that came out of nowhere, I mean, just it was totally different. There were a ton of great groups then, but this group was just pioneering, and they had that acid rock thing as well, and it was just a very, very progressive group for the time, very new sound, and it caught on.
We're talking to one of the legendary percussionists of Iron Butterfly, Michael Green. Michael, the band had three periods of transformations. 68 to 71 was one. Then the second transformation was 74 to 2011, and right. 2015 to present. What caused the band to break up frequently? Well, originally,
people passed, or they just didn't want to they wanted to go on to different things. You got to remember, originally, the guitar player, even before Eric Braun, was a guy named Danny Weiss. And Danny, after the first album, decided to go on and form a band called Rhinoceros. They had a big hit with the song Apricot Brandy. And Danny's played with everyone. He lives in Canada now. So there were personnel changes because they just wanted to change in the music. some people had passed away. That was in the first change. Second change, same thing. There was differences of opinion in the music. There were things that just, inner band stuff that just made things require a change, and then in the 2015, when I picked it up, I was able to benefit from all of that past because everybody, I think, I use the term outgrown those problems. The ego problems were gone. Anybody that may have had a drug issue is gone. There's none of that type thing anymore. And I think that we just took the music and said, hey, this is stuff that has got to stay in the mainstream, and be heard. And luckily it did. I mean, we have kids that are 15 and 16 years old now at these shows with their parents and without, and they know the music, and some of them are explaining it to their parents that didn't know it. So I think what it is, it's a natural chain. It's people that do pass away. I think it's creative differences, and then I think it's the desire to, what we have now is to maintain something that we think is like a Mona Lisa in music. You know what I mean? Something that will just be there forever.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Now, when you joined in 2015, did you ever have any doubts that your fan base would still show support?
Well, I didn't, and I'd like to say that, I was a prophet, and could tell that, but we had a lot of resistance because we had different people, and you had some people say, these are not the original guys, and I'd laugh and joke because if the band had the original guys, they'd change the name to the Grateful Dead. Obviously, people pass away, and people replace those people. We were put together by the remaining original people that wanted the music perpetuated, that wanted us to perpetuate it, and with the people that have been playing it for the past 15, 20 years. So, it just was a thing that I felt, yes, people will still love the music. Are there some people that will say, well, it's not those original guys, let's not go? Yes, there were. Most of those people have fallen by the wayside for several reasons. One, they hear the band, and if you heard us through a closed door and didn't see us, it's the original band playing. That's the same exact music. It's to a T. But then they also see the love and what we put into these shows, and we're not, dressed up like hippies. It's not a thing where we're a show. This is Iron Butterfly. People have evolved. We're not wearing what would, I don't know how to say it, but we're not dressed retro. You know what I'm saying? To look the part,
right? Because
we are the part, so we don't need that. There's still an occasional tie-dye shirt, but that's because some of us are burnouts. We have to have that, to get along. But it's developed into a thing where there's very few people. You get a sour guy every now and then. It says something, and we usually find out it was a guy who tried to accomplish something in his life musically and didn't, and he's mad at the world. But I would say that the greater majority, we get amazing letters on the internet and on Facebook. The promoters all love us. We've been asked back to every place we've been, so I don't know how bad that could be. We play the same places, and everybody seems to love the music.
Yeah, it seems like everything goes back in circles. Everyone's gravitating to that era again. 1968, Gadda, Vida was the band's biggest hit. What can you tell us about how that song was created? Well, you got to realize now, too, a lot of what I would tell you now would be what I know from my association with the guys because, I was not in the band at that point. But basically the story that you hear is true. Everybody was doing different things. Ron Bushy, the drummer, very aggressive guy, business-wise, always was making sure his stuff was taken care of, and it is till today. And he had a little Vespa scooter, and he was delivering pizzas part-time, when they were playing his house bands and things like that. And, Doug had called him up one day and said, I got this great song, I want you to hear it, but Doug has a little habit of drinking wine throughout the day. So it tried to say in the Garden of Eden, but it came out in Gadda, Vida, and boom, they liked it. And that's what they thought it was. And it was a name that created some controversy. What does that mean? Instead of just P.S. I love you or whatever, it was a different name. And I think the combination of the different name and the different sound just really brought it into play. I mean, when you listen to the song, we play it night after night, we're not tired of it. It really transports you back in time. I used to tell people on stage, and I still do, we're going to play the song, you may start to smell some incense burning. I mean, it really is, it is what it was, Yeah, I mean, I saw on YouTube there's 25 million views on that song. So, I mean, it is definitely part of American pop culture. 25 million views
Yeah, well,
on YouTube.
It was absolutely, and it's, they called it the anthem of the 60s. That Atlantic was their record company. They were the biggest draw Atlantic ever had at the time. They outsold all the gold on that, and they created a platinum album for these guys. And, this band is now quadruple platinum, and it's still selling today. So it's an unbelievable thing. It just, people have passed it on to their kids. A lot of the original fans are passed away because of the age of the group. This is like 52 years we're going on, but they passed it on to their kids, and their kids are like 50 and 60 years old. You know what I'm saying? Or 40 and 50. So their kids get it, the grandkids get it, and we have people that come up to us, younger people, and they don't understand it. This is 52 years old. They think we're innovative, and this is brand new. So it's very flattering.
Well, it's amazing. It's like an epidemic. It's a positive epidemic.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt, I agree. It's very, very good way of putting it, and it's very contagious, because when people hear it, so much of stuff now, I'm not putting any artist down because, God forbid, they all make money, but there is more to this business than making money. And at that time, there was much more to it than just making money because everybody had a different mindset. Everybody was going to change the world, so to speak, wanted to take all the bad out and put in the good and stop the war and do this and that. So it was different. And people hear that music now, and it's something that they just, it's not pre-programmed. Nobody's playing along with it electronically. There's nothing, it's music. It's musicians playing music, and singing along with it. And it's, even the stuff that you might think is a little corny now, like Flowers and Beads is one of the favorite songs people ask for that we do in the set. It's because maybe in the 60s it was Flowers and Beads, but now it's the same thing. It's a song about two people that love each other and dig each other and this type of thing. And I think the music is just reflective of, hey, this is what a nice life it would be, and what a crazy life it can be too, because there's some dark stuff, edgy stuff with Iron Butterfly as well, but there's some edgy parts of life, so I think it just deals with life in general.
Yeah, I mean, so the band is still performing in 2019, and it's performing strong, and you play most of the hits that made Iron Butterfly. Do you still get that feeling of nostalgia performing these songs? Do you get that feeling of taking you back? How's that feeling for you?
Without a doubt. I mean, like I said, anybody will tell you, and you know too, when you do anything night after night after night, especially music, you can say, oh, here it is again. I remember hearing about John Fogerty singing on Bad Moon Rising. Instead of saying there's a bad moon on the rise, you get bored and say there's a bathroom on the right, But we don't do that. I'm not putting him down. I think it's funny, but we don't do that because we really enjoy playing this music, and you can see it. You can see that it's fun to do. The audience sees it, and it's authentic. And, you couple that with the liquid light show that we have behind it and everything else, and it's a time machine. It really is.
Now, Mike, talk about some of the members of the band of the 2019 Iron Butterfly. Well,
it's a good thing. We've got quite a few people. Dave Meros, our bass player, let me start with him, is actually, and I say this on stage, and I mean it sincerely, absolutely, channels Lee Dorman, God rest his soul. He's using the same bass guitar, same type of bass guitar. He knows it note for note, and when you close your eyes and you hear it, or I see him on stage, it's Lee. He's a quality guy. Dave has been years and years. He was 10 years with us on and off. He was 15 years with Eric Burden and the Animals. He's been recording with everybody else. The keyboard player's name is Martin Gershwitz. Martin's got that same history too, years and years and years with the original Iron Butterfly. Both of these guys, they're replacing individuals, but they all played with the original band. Martin's been with Walter Trout, Lita Ford, Meatloaf, everybody you can think of. They all have a great history. And Martin has Doug's keyboard sound captured, absolutely captured. Really? Without a doubt. And Eric Burnett, the lead guitarist, funny that his name is Eric also. Eric has been with them like 20-something years on and off. He played with the original band. after Eric Braun and Mike Panera left. And Eric, I mean, I can't say enough about him. He's a great guy to work with, but his playing, that music, he's a fantastic guitarist, but that particular music so suits him. He's not just playing the music. It sounds like the 60s. It feels like the 60s. He has all the styles and the nuances and the everything in there that we need. And it's just really, really good, you know. And then the drummer, you know, who is kind of integral in this band, because everybody looks at the solo and Iron Butterfly. See, they didn't have percussion play originally. They did all that stuff in the studio. They wanted it because it's a lot of African rhythms with Iron Butterfly. So where the people go, where do the congas and percussion come in? They come in very well. And I'm not saying that because I'm playing it, because I'm playing not Latin percussion. I'm playing rock and African beats along with that music. We are sadly changing drummers right now to a new person because of we have had I don't want to say a parting of the ways. The drummer's had some opportunity to do other things, and I think he feels best in pursuing that. So we're bringing back a drummer that we've had for a while. His name is Marty, great guy. He's played with us for on and off for a long, long time, and has mastered this solo. And I have to tell you that, you know, the most important thing that we do in this whole hour and a half set is Ingle de Vida. So, and then the most important part of Ingle de Vida is the drum solo. So these guys got to be on it, and we pull it off night after night, and people love it. And it's the full 17 and a half minutes of Ingle de Vida.
Well, you sound great. We have a couple of minutes, which we're going to play now.
Okay, great.
Sean, can you play Iron Butterfly? Iron Butterfly, folks, and they're telling me I have 1 minute, Mike. Where do you see visions of the band within the next 5-10 years?
Well, you know, we thought the sound would fail out, but it really hasn't. They wanted it. It's asked for, so we're going to continue to play. We're playing the different tours, playing festivals, fairs, different venues, and we just want to keep it going, and hopefully we'll all be around for the next 10 years and continue to do that and bring that sound to the people who know it and love it, and bring that sound to a new generation so they can learn to love it and pass it on. And hopefully that way it just stays forever. You know, that's what we're looking to do.
And the website is ironbutterflyband.com. Is that correct? ironbutterflyband.com?
That's correct. www.ironbutterflyband.com. And you can find us there, and our shows are listed, and news and information and things of that nature.
Beautiful, Mike. Great stuff, and I appreciate you being with me early in the morning.
Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure. Love to talk with you, and anytime, feel free.
Yes. Thank you so much, and take care of yourself.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Michael Green, one of the top percussionists in music and the manager of the iconic group Iron Butterfly. And the website is ironbutterflyband.com. Until next week, happy collecting to all.